Dead men tell no tales, but their ships speak volumes. Welcome to the Cursed Compass, where we explore the darkest maritime mysteries. In December 2007, a snorkeler swimming just 70 feet off Catalina Island in the Dominican Republic looked down through 10 feet of crystal-clear water and noticed something unnatural on the seafloor. It was a massive conglomerate of rusted cannons and ship anchors, heavily encrusted with centuries of barnacles. Marine archaeologists soon confirmed the identity of the wreckage. These iron remnants belonged to the Quetagash Merchant, a 400-ton vessel that vanished over 300 years ago. It was the final, fatal prize of Captain William Kidd. For centuries, the name Captain William Kidd has conjured campfire myths of cursed buried treasure, doomed pirate crews, and a violent rogue left to rot in an iron cage over the River Thames. Those supernatural legends overshadow a stark physical reality. The actual remains of his maritime career are not hidden in a mythical pirate cove, but are sitting in plain sight, anchored in a shallow Caribbean grave. To understand this wreckage, we have to ask how the ultimate prize of history's most famous pirate hunter ended up looted and burned, and we have to examine whether the man who captured it was actually a pirate at all. In 1695, William Kidd was a respected New York privateer. He was commissioned directly by the English crown and the governor of New York, Lord Bellamont, to actively hunt down pirates disrupting trade in the Indian Ocean. Outfitting his massive 34-cannon ship, the Adventure Galley, required immense capital. 4/5 of the funding came from some of the most powerful Whig lords in England, and King William III personally signed the letter of marque. Kidd was sailing under a mountain of elite political debt, and failure to return with a profit meant financial ruin. The voyage was a disaster from the start. As they sailed toward the Cape of Good Hope, a cholera outbreak swept through the ship, killing a third of the crew. Meanwhile, the Adventure Galley itself developed severe leaks, forcing constant, exhausting labor at the pumps. The psychological strain reached a breaking point in October 1697. Facing open threats of mutiny from his starving men, Kidd lashed out during an argument with his gunner, William Moore. Kidd struck Moore in the head with an iron-bound bucket, fracturing his skull and killing him. Kidd was now trapped, commanding a failing, sinking ship, buried in debt to powerful men, and guilty of murder. He desperately needed a valuable prize to salvage his mission and save his own life. In January 1698, off the coast of India, Kidd finally found his salvation. He intercepted the Quetagash Merchant, a massive Armenian merchant vessel loaded with gold, silver, and highly valuable silk. The capture sat in a fatal legal gray area. With French sea passes for protection, Kidd claimed the seizure was legal under his commission. He was wrong. The cargo belonged to a nobleman with close ties to the Grand Mogul of India. The seizure threatened the East India Company's entire trade network. To appease the Mogul, the government immediately reclassified their appointed privateer as a wanted pirate. Ignorant of his new criminal status, Kidd sailed to Madagascar, where he finally encountered a real pirate, Robert Culliford. Rather than attack, Kidd's unpaid, exhausted crew voted to mutiny. They stripped Kidd's ships of weapons and rigging, and over 100 men abandoned him to join Culliford. Left with a skeleton crew of fewer than 20 loyal men, Kidd was forced to abandon his rotting Adventure Galley. He piled onto the massive Quetagash Merchant and made a desperate retreat toward the Caribbean, eventually hiding the stolen ship in a secluded lagoon off the coast of Hispaniola. Kidd now steered 400 tons of floating evidence that he could neither legally sell nor safely bring home. With no market for the silk and a death warrant on his head, the ship had become a massive, slow-moving liability. Believing he could clear his name, Kidd traveled to Boston to meet his investor, Lord Bellamont. But Bellamont, terrified of being implicated in piracy, lured Kidd in with false promises of clemency. Upon arrival, Kidd was arrested, and the crucial French passes that proved his innocence conveniently vanished from the record. Shipped back to London, Kidd spent nearly 2 years in solitary confinement in the disease-ridden hellhole of Newgate Prison. His powerful Whig backers, facing a political scandal, entirely abandoned him, finding him much more useful as a condemned scapegoat. On May 23, 1701, Kidd was taken to Execution Dock in Wapping. He was heavily intoxicated and protesting his innocence to the end. The hangman's first rope snapped, dropping Kidd to the mud. Minutes later, a second rope held firm, and he was hanged until dead. The Crown's punishment extended beyond death. Kidd's body was coated in tar, bound in heavy chains, and suspended in an iron cage, called a gibbet. He was left hanging over the River Thames for 3 years as a grisly warning to passing sailors. Back in the Caribbean, the skeleton crew Kidd had entrusted with the Quetta Merchant realized their captain was never coming back. They looted the remaining cargo, set the ship ablaze, and pushed it adrift down a river until it finally sank just off Catalina Island. The accessible, shallow wreckage of the Quetta Merchant remains today as a permanent archaeological marker for this intersection of trade and the trail. Kidd died a pirate's death, while the ship he believed would save him sat abandoned in the sand, a relic of the political machinery that discarded its own hunter.